Hello and welcome to my channel. If you're new here, I go by Strange Online, and today we're going to be creating Pinterest images into characters. So this is yet another character design video. I love making these, and I wanted to spice things up today just by making it a bit of a challenge for myself to create these characters. For reference, this is the image that I chose for my first character. We're hopping right into it. Looking at this image, there's a few things that kind of initially come out at me. First, it's like this metal bird thing, which is really cool. Another thing I noticed was its back was exposed, sort of like the bones. So I really wanted to draw that into my character design. I sort of don't have a name for these characters since I just made them. However, if any of you guys have any creative ideas for what we may call this guy, let me know. Either way, I knew that I wanted to create like this exposed rib cage to kind of emphasize that detail of that feature. Another thing is that obviously it's a bird. I really wanted to make his feathers sort of like a shield to him. My idea is that he is sort of like a skeleton, and you'll see a little later on that I draw a bird's skull like right next to the image, and that's mainly just to emphasize the fact that he is a skeleton. He doesn't have any internal organs, or there's nothing there. Another thing is that we have to have the mandatory mask, and then when he has the chance to remove it, it's just like you would expect a face underneath it because there's like hair, he has hair and stuff, but it's in fact just a bird skull underneath his bird mask. His feathers kind of create this cloak of protection, which is definitely what I was going for. I wanted him to have a build like a bird. I don't know how to explain it exactly, but I didn't want him to be too bulky, but I also didn't want him to have like way too slender of a feature. Whenever I'm creating a character, I like to pay attention to a lot of the shapes that I'm creating within that character's design. For example, if I want a character to look very strong, I'll give him a very strong silhouette. I'll make them take up a lot of space on the page. This isn't what I was going for this character though. I wanted him to have a build that didn't take up too much space, but still allowed him enough to kind of have a strong presence. This, along with all the other motifs that I put in his design, create a air of authority or importance without giving him all the big muscles. Going right into the coloring, I knew that I wanted to keep the colors pretty consistent to what the actual image was. I didn't switch it up in that sort of way, but I did kind of take away some of the metallics, and as you'll see later on, emphasized it in a different way. For the design itself, I kind of wanted this character to look a little spooky, just like this image kind of gave me that vibe. I don't exactly know who made this and why they made it, but I just know that it looks cool. So that was kind of what I was going for when I was designing this character. For his story, I imagine he might be some sort of villain. I'm not 100% sure if he would be the villain, but he kind of is designed to be like very mysterious and dark, so typically that's what we see in villain roles. I've mentioned in the past that it could be really fun to break these character design rules and create characters that don't look exactly how they act, but it could be just as fun to create a character that aligns with that. Now you could see me adding these different colors. I actually had this idea where I didn't know exactly, I think it was supposed to be like a crow, but I kind of took it my own way. The bird that was recreated, I wanted to actually be a raven because ravens typically have that sort of color bounce in their feathers. When their feathers hit the light, it kind of creates this oil slick effect, if anybody knows exactly what I'm talking about. I wanted to recreate that for his feathers and mask to give that metallic feel. While I was creating this character, I couldn't help but imagine him in some sort of stark cyberpunk world. If anybody has the same idea that I'm having, I'm thinking like dystopian future where everybody is living in this dark age of innovation. Maybe he's hiding the secret of being the skeleton monster, or maybe that's just what everybody is in the city. And yes, I do believe that this character would live in some sort of futuristic city. Then of course I am moving on to the more detailed version of this design. I'm basically just emphasizing the fact that all his feathers are multiple feathers. You could also see that I chose like a white, grayish, bluish, I don't know what color to describe this as, but it's kind of an icy hair tone for him. I wanted to keep things mainly cold except for the highlights within his actual like metal parts, just to emphasize those parts specifically. One thing that I thought would be cool was maybe like his feathers can move. He can manually control his feathers and use them as a shield of defense, because although he is a skeleton and he doesn't have any vital organs to protect, he probably still has to protect himself a little bit. I don't know why, but I really like the bird skull I worked worked on. I just used a reference and I was really proud of it. So, I mean, that's an A for me, I guess. This is a little bit of a spoiler for my next video, but it is about referencing, so I'm excited for you guys to see that as well. As always, if you guys also have any other video ideas that you would like to see on this channel, feel free to comment them below. I'm always open to new ideas. And if you have any ideas for this character, something I should add, something maybe I should get rid of, that is also something that's welcomed. Moving on, I decided to put a little more detail into the mask. I noticed in the actual image, there is like so much detail within the metal itself. It's not just like plain metal. There is actual like plating and stuff like that. So I wanted to make sure to emphasize that in his mask once you kind of look closer. One mistake I did make while creating this was initially for the top sketch, I used this blue undertone and then I forgot to do it for the second sketch. So if it looks a little flat, that's why. Again, this is kind of how I did the hair. I started off with a very, very light color and then I just built it up with different colors like blues, grays. It really is like this mesh of just cool tones, and it provides a lot of contrast with his feathers and mask, which is primarily why I chose these colors. By the end of this piece, I was pretty proud of the way everything was looking. Honestly, I wouldn't change much if I had to change anything, but I will say if I had to change anything, I would probably change the size of his feathers. I'd make them a little more bulkier and kind of more metal looking, I guess. But other than that, I was pretty happy with the way this design turned out. And with that, we can go ahead and move on to the next character. Now, I personally find this funny, but this character I'm designing currently was nothing like the first character. In fact, they are probably from completely different universes, and I find it so hilarious that it's on the same like page as this other character. So it's just complete contrast, which is fine because the image is completely different. Here's the image that I chose for this second character. For the Pinterest images, I didn't want to necessarily only go with like objects, but clothing also counts as well. Anything that I was seeing that caught my eye, I basically put in a folder, and this was one of them. Something really spoke to me about this scarf. First, I want to own the scarf, obviously. And second, it just reminded me of spider webbing, and that's basically the idea that I took and ran with. So I wanted to create a character who was kind of like this spider girl who could string spider webs, you know, pretty typical stuff, but I wanted her spider webs to actually like look like stars. So my idea is she's kind of like this cosmic spider person. I don't know, like this mesh of ideas. So it's not entirely perfect. I thought it was so fun to create. Making her was basically like meshing all my favorite things about like characters in general. I will say I really struggled with her color, but I'll go into it later on, not right now. For now, I just designed her to be really cute because I just wanted to make a really cute character. This is definitely like indulgent. I gave her a little scarf to kind of resemble and draw back to the actual image, but I didn't want to give her the exact scarf that was in the image because she is kind of just the embodiment of what I think this scarf would look like. It's random, okay? A lot of this character design is a very like trust the process idea because I promise you, like I was making this character design and I was just like, yeah, I don't know what I'm doing. Like this actually looks like garbage and I might have to cut this out of the video, but I luckily didn't. Both these character designs can use improvement. These are the first ever sketches that I'm making of these characters. So with character design, the first sketches are typically not the ones that you stick with. Either way, I know that spiders have more limbs, but hear me out. The antennas can count as limbs, right? So let's just say that her antennas count as limbs and call it a day. Either way, if I had to describe her character, I would say she's like an alien spider cosmic webber kind of character. I don't know if she does anything specifically with her webs. I haven't really thought that far out. And I do have to give a warning. Now you see me going in with this bright orange. I promise you I have changed it already in the future, aka in this video. So just bear with looking at that orange for a minute there. I know it's bad. I know it kind of makes your eyes bleed a little bit, but you're gonna have to just trust the process on this one. Now you're also going to have to trust the process with this purple as well. I know she's kind of giving like Starfire right now. That's not the vibe I was going for, and I realized that halfway through coloring her. And I also didn't like mess with this color combo anyways, so I decided to kind of dull down her colors and make her a little more pastel because that's also what I wanted for her. I wanted her to be kind of this soft character. I kind of gave her warm clothing just because I don't think temperature would really affect her. but I thought if she was going to wear any type of clothing, it'd be very cozy clothing. You might be wondering now, why did I give her a green and white striped scarf just for the funsies? Honestly, I think that her character is very fun. I think she would wear a lot of funky items, and it's mainly just something that I thought looked cool. I know the colors aren't exactly character design friendly, but I honestly didn't really care at the moment. I was just having so much fun just coloring her to my heart's content. Again, sticking with the cosmic theme, you could see like in little detail the small sketch that I did of her where her sleeves kind of have little stars on them. You'll see them later on as well. Like they just are to emphasize the space theme with her. So here's my kind of brainstorm with her character as a whole. I would say she's fun, kind of spunky. So I would say her character is adventurous as well, probably always looking for a good time, probably always open to discovering a lot of things from Earth. I'd like to imagine she comes from somewhere pretty similar to Earth, like there's a whole civilization she comes from, and she's one out of hundreds of thousands of these spider people. But regardless, she's kind of special in her own way. She has her own fun, bubbly personality. I think it would be cool if she got her spider webbing either naturally from herself or maybe from the stars themselves. I also think that maybe there would be something kind of dreamy about her character. Like instead of catching things in her webs to eat, she kind of catches dreams or something. I don't know. That's sort of where I want to go. Like she catches something really cute in her webs. I don't think she would like catch actual food or anything like that. Just something about like collecting stardust to make her webbing would be really cute for her character. And I imagine she's kind of giving this like Sandman-esque aesthetic without actually, being all mystical and magical and just like magical in her own way. I'm not sure if any of that makes sense, but those who know. By the end of this, I was pretty happy with their design. If I had to say one thing I didn't like, I would say it's definitely her color palette. I don't know. I was really struggling with her color palette for this one, but I don't think it's the worst color palette I've ever come up with, so I'm pretty happy with that at least. Another thing is also, I feel like my drawings typically look better after I've done the actual line art for them, so I try not to feel too bad when I'm doing this like coloring phase and that's still not sticking to me, because typically I end up doing the line art and feel way better about it in the future, which is basically what ended up happening with this one. I've been coloring before the line art for a while now. It just kind of gives my characters more flow and it provides less strictness within that, but it's always nerve-wracking to do otherwise. I know in these videos I'm always glazing like using acrylic markers, but it is truly way easier to go with the flow because I can fix my mistakes way easier as well because they're paint and I could go over paint with more paint and it's just great. But it's also provided me a lot of experimentation within my art, which I feel like was more restricted when I was using items like color pencils or markers. If you've watched this video all the way through, I want to thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, consider liking the video, subscribing for more content, and yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Bye!